So, on your 92nd birthday, what's the youngest birthday that you remember?
I really can't remember. I'm sure we had a cake, probably. If it was a work day, it was a full work day. Probably not so much for me. It was a full work day. Probably if it was a Sunday or something, cousins, that would be like Uncle Roy's or Aunt Belle's or Reynolds's. Reynolds would be, but probably someone would come over, just probably bring food. I don't remember bringing gifts.
Would this have been elementary school age?
Well, it would have to be,
that
yeah.
you were? Did you remember that? I mean, kind of not so much
And at
specific
school,
question.
I don't know what, we probably had and the kids probably made fun of your birthday. I mean, in a kind of not a mean way or anything. No. We just never seemed to, I don't think we had candles when we were little. It was a fancy birthday cake. I'm sure maybe
Grandma would have made something.
Yeah,
right?
probably like maybe a hickory nut. I think Uncle Russell liked hickory nut, so that might have been his favorite cake. I don't remember gifts. I'm sure probably something practical, maybe Mother making a little apron for me when I was little, like she made those for you, those little checkered ones. At Christmas, I remember getting the apple and an orange and nuts that weren't shelled, mixed nuts. That was part of it, with the apple and the orange on our plate when we came downstairs. And probably I would get a doll, and I don't think it was so much clothes.
About things like mittens. I mean, your birthday was
November,
November.
yeah, we could have. That was Christmas, yeah. Yeah, at Christmas, probably we did.
Did Grandma knit and/or crochet?
She crocheted and stuff, so she would. Those were all home done, probably. Yeah. And I think maybe somehow we had out of a barrel that had the stays or the wood things that fit together.
Yeah.
We had skates made out of barrel stays with strap across, which was rubber or from old harness, probably.
Now, where would you go skating in relation
in
to
the pond up there by the 20, up beyond the mailbox, where that windmill was.
Oh,
where we had
okay, by
cattle.
the windmill. Okay,
Yeah.
they're beyond kind of the McNeil, the other McNeil.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Beyond their house, we
Right,
go up
yeah.
where the windmill,
Right.
and there was a pond there. It would
Okay.
just fill in with water.
I don't think I ever heard that.
And we'd go up there and use these skates.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we would get a sled sometimes.
Yeah.
A sled for Christmas. Certain times we'd get a sled.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and that would be to go downhill, down below the fence by the garden.
How much older was Pearl than you when?
About almost 5 years. And she didn't seem to be into the sports outdoors as much as I was.
Yeah.
She was more in the house reading and. Oh, I'm sure she did with Margaret Gant and Russell, and she would, but not nearly as much.
Mm-hmm.